Hi guys, so when we talk about a solid center, what do we mean? It's not a closed center. It's a center that's pretty much unchangeable, but there are open files that the rooks can use, and there are some diagonals for the bishops. I'd like to read everything from this book. I try to translate everything about this chapter because it's a really common pawn structure. So in order to change this situation, you have to use drastic measures like sacrifices or sudden smashes. There's a pawn on either side of the board in the center, and usually they stand opposite each other. This gives a special nature to the play on both sides. The fight could be located in the center when both players group their pieces, but also on the sides when one player uses the relative staticness of the center and tries to attack on the flank. The attacker focuses his pieces on the center and tries to grab as much space, and having a better position there forces the opponent later on to yield, which might cause new positional and maybe material um, downsides. The attacker can sometimes, even due to his central superiority, get a successful flank attack. The defending side is trying to evict those pieces from the center or exchange them, and in both cases he's reducing the attacker's strengths, and he's also getting ready to meet a possible flank attack. And after meeting that attack, he can even start to think about a counterattack. Solid center takes great skill from players. A player like Botvinnik usually plays exquisitely in these kinds of positions. This first game is between Stolberg and Botvinnik from the Soviet Championship 1940. In this position, white uses the squares c5 and e5, and black uses c4 and e4. Botvinnik's first move, f5, is focused on adding the control of e4 square by exchanging this light square bishop of white's. Queen to c2, bishop e4, b4, b5. Now this move allows black to further his control of c4. Here black took and played knight to a5. Knight g3, and notice how knight takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes a5 would be bad because of rook e3, and black has a strong initiative. He's pressuring white. So that's why white doesn't grab that pawn. Knight c4, bishop to c1, already a compromise to make, defending the a3 pawn and declining the exchange of these minor pieces. Rook a to c8, very natural moves. Black doesn't really have to perform any magic tricks. Rook a to a2, a slightly uncomfortable move. A rook doesn't really belong here. Bishop f8, now this queen is also protecting this pawn. a4, and now bishop b4. This move is also aimed at controlling e4 better. Knight to d1, knight e4, f5, takes, bishop d6. Sorry, my mouse is being a pain. So bishop d6, queen f3, bishop e7 to f6. Look at that bishop. White gets the h-pawn, but black gets the important d-pawn. King h1, f6, bishop c1, rook to e4. This is like a parking place for black's pieces. Look at this. Queen d3, knight e5, rook to c4. And believe it or not, this is really uncomfortable for white. a5, bishop here, and this is already losing for white. Look at his pieces. This queen and rook are doing almost nothing. They're protecting this knight. This bishop's pinned. This rook is not doing much. And they're all in this small area. It's basic physics. Look at black's pieces. They're all over the place, controlling files, ranks, central squares. So now white played queen to c1, and black played this exquisite sacrifice, sacrificing a rook just to expose this king. And now a great move, d4, getting ready to get this queen in with check and mate the white king, and also that would hit this rook. So there's not much that white can do here. White resigned. Let's look at another game here. This is Kotov on white pieces and Botvinnik on black. White is better here, but let's see how Botvinnik survives. Queen d3, queen to c8. The idea behind this move is to go to e6, where the queen controls the important squares c4 and e4. Rook to c1, queen e6. White is playing rather aimlessly. Knight e2. Here white should have just taken this rook, although black gets this queenside majority, because now white can't really do anything in the center. White can't play actively. It's really important to stay active. White played knight to f4, queen e7, queen's just shuffling, h4, queen to f3, and black notices that, so he improves his position slowly. Rook f to d1, knight e4, bring the knight closer. Now a rook lift, queen e2, takes, f takes. Let's see what would happen if h takes. Actually, h takes is also possible, but perhaps white was hoping to get some play along the f file or something. Queen g5, bishop e4, d takes e4, and now bishop takes f4, followed by queen to d5. Now look at this battery, just getting ready to check on h1 or g2, possibly mating white if white's not careful. There's also a possibility of pawn check here. So what should white do here? If white plays something like queen e3, trying to block this pawn, then black can just take here and then take this a pawn. So white played queen to g2 here, But now black put more pressure on c1, so white alleviates some of that pressure and plays h3. But now simply b4 and e3. Black is ready to exchange the queens, but he has a lot of threats. White is pretty much forced to exchange queens. Black plays an in-between check here. Now he takes this queen. Now black is still hitting this bishop. He's threatening to come here to check white's king, where white would have to go to f1, after which there's this fork on e2 with the pawn supported by this rook that's supported by this bishop. It's just beautiful, you know. White just doesn't have any space, and black is using these pieces in a very simple manner, so white surrendered here. So as we can see, the center changed a lot. White still has this d pawn over here. White's king side is slightly weaker because black played really actively. Here the center is still pretty solid, but black takes here, and then the d pawn becomes isolated. So here already there was a lot of pressure against white, so I guess white felt compelled to take here, but it didn't really help much. This pawn structure became white's tomb. You know, he just couldn't get out with his king, and he doesn't have a lot of space either. He doesn't really control any central squares. He can't put a piece here. He can't get a piece here. They're pretty much under black's control as well. So this is just a losing position for white. Let's look at another game. Here the d pawn is alone, and this is between Botvinnik and Vidmar in Nottingham 1934. This d pawn is isolated, and it's practically immobile because it's not easy to play d5, but white doesn't even want to play d5 because this pawn is a good support for his pieces. Let's see how white plays. Queen d3. This is a great move because white is ready to play bishop c2, and also this queen is ready to come to h3 and play an important role. Knight to d5. What else can black do? Knight e5. The most important thing is that this knight is hitting f7, and it's also supporting this attack over here. So bishop c6. What else can black do? Rook to d1, using the rook to defend this important pawn, because this queen has to go elsewhere. Knight b4. Okay, my move was moving anyway. Knight to d5. Sorry, bishop to d5. Now this was a mistake because this black's bishop is really good. Now what happens is white takes that bishop, and now this white bishop becomes very dangerous. You can just see how it's screaming towards this king. Now how does Botvinnik take advantage of this the best way? He plays f4, threatening to maybe play f5 and strike here, and see how this bishop just comes alive. And also this d5 square, this stronghold that black has, is going to be weaker because this e6 is making d5 strong, so white is striking against e6. So f4 is a multi-purpose move, and the f file also gets opened by this rook. Also this queen is kind of hitting e6, so this square is like the center of white's attack right now. Rook a to c8. This is not the best way to defend. Black should have played g6, and after that white would have had to play bishop here and maybe g4, f5. Now f5 comes, e takes f5, rook takes f5. Look at that bold rook lift. We will see later why this rook is good on f5. Yes, the rooks are disconnected, but we will see later why. For example, look how it's kind of hitting d5 with the bishop. Now black played queen d6 and white wins immediately. What would you play here as white? Look at all of your pieces and how they could work together. Black has weak points like f7, d5. This rook is hitting both. This knight is hitting f7. This bishop's hitting d5. And also look at this queen possibly hitting c8. It is in fact hitting it. This rook is just in the way, but it's hitting it. This rook's also hitting f7, and this bishop's also hitting f7. So what should white play here? White played knight takes f7. Here rook took, but what if if king takes, we would have rook here, and look at this skewer. That's just discovered attacks that are going to come after this queen moves. It's not gonna be pretty. So rook takes, and now white takes on f6. Why does he take on f6? Because if knight takes, then we take here, followed by this, and it would just be devastating. Let's say bishop takes, check. What can black really do here? He's going to lose this rook, let's say rook f1 or something, and you know, black just can't defend both of these pieces. So that's probably not the best line, but anyway, that's why knight doesn't take, and of course it doesn't matter if black captures with the pawn or the bishop. This is just a really strong combination. So that's why bishop takes, and now what we have here is rook takes d5, queen c6, and rook d6. Notice how we don't play rook c5 because there would be bishop d4. So, but rook d6, very strong move. We're still harassing this rook here. So let's say queen here, which black did play. Now we can just play rook to d7 and put pressure on this rook here, and this is where black actually resigned. I wonder why white didn't want to take here. Let's actually check this one. Okay, so pawn would take, takes, and the material is even, but even here you have queen check, rook c1, and this should be winning. Say f5, queen takes, takes, and this is just winning for white. He's up 2 pawns. So that would also have been okay, I think. But this is even stronger because this is also equal material, but the advantages here are that now you can put pressure on this rook and you win quality. So you don't have to sacrifice anything to get a rook. You can just get quality for free. Okay, so let's look at another another game. But before that, there is a summary. When the center is solid, you can play in 2 different ways. The attacking side can perform this organized gathering of his forces to the center until you gain a decisive advantage. And a good way to do this is to destroy the defending pieces. And when you are the master of the center, you can plan a breakthrough there, or move to a flank. But there's another way. You can start a flank attack immediately and just trust that the center will hold, because you know, if the opponent strikes in the center, you're screwed. In both cases, the defending side will put obstacles to the attack and starts to work on the other front to disrupt the opponent's forces. Now, how can you change a solid center to a different type of center? You can destroy your opponent's soldiers, and you can transform the position from solid to a mobile center. And if both sides' soldiers get destroyed, then it becomes an open center. And also a locked center can easily become solid and even mobile. So you have to be really careful in deciding when to make a mobile center to a solid one. For example, this next game between Lilienthal and Floor, 1935, there's an interesting change in the structure. See how black puts pressure on e4. Now if white is just gonna defend that pawn, he's gonna become really passive. He's gonna lose the initiative. So what should he do? Let's say he plays e5. You can do that if you want. In that case, the center would become solid. But let's see what he decides to do. Now, if you want to look at games like e5, you should look at the game Kotov-Glikorich, Moscow 1947. I didn't check that out, but if you want to. But here, white played d5, and I really like Lilienthal's playing style. He was like the last romantic player. E takes d5, and now he doesn't care about the pawn. Knight to d4, he's ready to play knight f5, queen g5 with a very dangerous attack. Pretty much all of his pieces are attacking black's king. He gives up these central pawns just to be able to attack. So bishop c5, and here white should have played rook takes c5, knight g5, and queen to g5, but he played e5. This gives black some time. Knight e4, f3, and here black floor also makes a great move. Queen to e8. He gives up this piece in order to get a great control of the center. These active pieces are supporting the center. You get, and black gets a very dangerous mobile center. So rook to e1, rook e8. This pawn cannot take on d5. Now black wins a third soldier for the piece, so the material is also even, and white has to find some kind of equalization here. King h1, d takes e4. Look at this position. Rook d8, h6. f5. Look at this center. Now what white does here is really just, it's amazing. He plays rook to d2. The idea of this move is to not have the rook on d1, where black would have this capture with check. Now if black plays f4, white is going to play knight to e6. Look at this stunning move. If black takes this queen, then white wins this rook with tempo and gets the queen back. So that's why black doesn't take here. And if rook takes d2, then we take it, and again black cannot recapture because of bishop to b3. So a very beautiful combination here. There's this diagonal, we're hitting the rook, like this as well, so this doesn't really matter. Our queen doesn't really matter at this point. So that's why black plays rook to f8, and now a bad move, king h8. Now knight e2, and queen to d1, threatening rook d7, so bishop here. Now hitting that bishop, hitting this bishop, taking here, and now this dangerous bishop is gone. We can say that white is better, but now white makes a slight, or makes an inaccuracy. He should have played bishop a1, queen e7, bishop e5, and then rook d6. Instead he plays rook d6 now, and black doesn't care. He exchanges bishops, king h7, both sides kind of just want to end this really sharp endgame. Queen h5, and now we have a perpetual check here. So I think this example was really beautiful. there were also some nice engine lines that I saw from this position, but let's say knight here. No, wait. Rook d2. Knight here. I think I did I misanalyze something? Anyway, knight here. Um, if see, it's also possible to play something like rook to d5 or something. Um, Also, if rook e8 here, which was suggested by Kotov, then we can take this bishop, or we can play queen to h3, or we can play rook d7. Let's look at rook d7. It just looked so nice. Like let's say pawn takes. We can take here first. Okay, well, this is nothing special. Maybe it was a different position. But anyway, this game. So yeah, my computer froze again, but this game was a great example on how the center changed really quickly to different forms, and also black was able to form a mobile center out of nowhere. First, white just blasted open the center and made the center open instead of solid like he could have done with e5. And then after, black sacrificed a piece in order to win pawns in the center and to create a strong, mobile, supported center. So anyway, thanks for watching this episode, and next time we'll be talking about a loaded center.